Fire Emblem doesn't do a great job of balancing units. Now don't get me wrong, for the most part, every unit is viable in one way or another. They may have great stats that make up for their poor movement, so slower players get a great unit, or they may suck stat-wise, but have a utility as a emergency rescue unit, so they have a use in the army. But not every unit is like that. So here's a list of, in my opinion, the worst units in every Fire Emblem game. Keep in mind, this is just my opinion, but some things are just kind of fact. Also, some of you may say that, well hey, character you said sucked was amazing, they worked great on my playthrough, or how dare you compare Three Houses characters to Binding Blade characters. And to you, straw man I just created, allow me to say again, these are my opinions. Maybe I've just had bad experiences with them, and also, these aren't the 10 worst units in the franchise, because if I was doing that, I'd just show you gameplay of Radiant Dawn, but these are the worst in each game in the franchise. Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light is not a nice game to its units. Like, a third of your army can't promote. If you're not a sword, there's not a whole lot of variety in weapons, and most weapons are heavy as all get out. But you know what group this universally applies to? The Axe Quartet in Chapter 2. They have all the problems listed above. Their inability to promote, cutting their chances to grow short, there's only 5 axes in the game, and one of them has a chance of exploding and all but guaranteeing your unit's death. However, one of them stands alone as the worst, and that is Daros. Barst has the best growths out of all of them with the exception of HP, and that steel axe and 10 strength he has means he can whack the enemy for a decent amount of damage, and has a decent chance of getting his stats pretty high all things considered. Board starts with a hammer. Not as useful as, say, a Horse Slayer when it comes to effective damage, but not a bad one, as that's probably 40 less armor knights you have to deal with, including a good chunk of this game's bosses. Cord looks the worst on his first appearance, but considering the only axe he can't wield is the Devil Axe, and his standout speed overboard, means he can be pretty darn good overall. Meanwhile, Daros has next to no speed, he's stuck at 2 skill unless you give him stat boosters, and while his strength base and growth is good, his abysmal speed and luck growths combined with his aforementioned skill means he's probably not going to get to use it, as he'll just miss whatever he was aiming for. Water walking may have niche uses in the future titles, but at this point, it's kind of pointless. Plus, just like all the other fighters, no stores sell axes past Chapter 20. So you either need to stock up on axes, or that unit you trained is just dead weight. It's a good thing he becomes Sail, so he can fly away and leave this army and stop being an embarrassment. Gaiden has a sort of unique approach, as almost every unit sucks, but because of that, no one stands out in my mind as being bad. So instead I'll choose the unit that utterly handicaps you, Dean. Dean has excellent bases for this game, and while his growths are poor even for this game, it doesn't matter all too much as he's in the Mercenary class, the second best class line in this game, since it turns into the excellent mage tank of Dreadfighter. Additionally, he starts the game with a weapon, the Hero Sword, giving him a heightened chance to land a critical hit and wipe out the competition, on top of not facing any backlash from the Shadow Sword. So why is he the worst character in the game? Simple. Picking him is the dumbest move you can make in this game, because you choose him over Sonya. Sonya is a mage, the best class in Fire Emblem Gaiden. On top of having guaranteed hit rates on basically everything, Sonya starts with a steel shield, so she actually has more defense than Dean. And she learns every magic spell in the game except for Aura and Ragnarok. So she has the ever-useful Fire, Long-Range Thunder, Crit Machine Excalibur, Monster Effective Seraphim, and the super powerful Sagittae. She's also got better growths in all aspects except HP than Dean. She gains swords upon promotion so she can use the hero sword Dean drops when you kill him, and on top of that, her chapter is just way harder than his. In Sonya's fight, you're battling a bunch of witches who can teleport anywhere they want for any reason, while Dean's fight is just a bunch of infantry sword units. It's really funny because Dean, despite being the 4th, potentially 5th mercenary you can get, he's probably one of the best. But having a 5th caster who can use all sorts of specialized magic is just way more useful than another sword fighter. This section is only coming from Book 2 of Mystery of the Emblem, so despite units like Cord reappearing, they don't count for this. This game is also hard to pick one, because this game has these star shards, which grant pretty massive buffs to everyone's growth, so anyone can become a powerful unit. Plus, almost everyone in this game has promotions, so no one is held back, so I'll give it to Samuel, or Samto as he was called in the original game, the Dollar Store Navarre. He's in a class where he's outshined before he joins, as Ogma is an excellent mercenary, strong and durable, able to protect the kids he has to, and he's outshined after he joins, as Navarre, the man he pretends to be, is a speedy crit-slashing machine. If you wanted to say that Yulia or Yubella are worse, you might have an argument, but outside speed, they've got equal or better growths in all aspects than him, so they can even use those star shards better than him, and they have utility. Yulia is a cleric, so she can obviously heal, on top of warp, refresh, silence, unlock doors, and exclusively to her, she can revive dead units or bring any ally to her to help protect her. And Yubello can target resistance, something that most units have at 0, and he has access to the various magics effective against the powerful dragons that would otherwise be a major pain in the butt. So no matter how you look at it, Samuel has no point. The first generation is all about shipping. You gotta find the best unit pairings that give necessary skills to the next generation, while also, getting through the chapters themselves. And in my opinion, one man stands out as the worst, and that's Neowish. Some may say that Arden is the worst, but here's the thing. Arden may only hit once, but he can generally hit pretty strong, and he can take quite a lot of abuse in the process. So while you do need to rush to save villages, Arden isn't a bad option for being a wall for the enemies to crash into so your other units can finish them off. And he has access to every single physical weapon once he promotes. Neowish, meanwhile, he's not doing good. He's got 2 skills, critical and a cost, but critical can be obtained by getting 50 kills on a weapon, not easy per se, but definitely doable by the time the second generation gets going, and a cost lets you engage in multiple rounds of combat as long as you're healthy, but that can oftentimes just get you killed instead. Plus, while Arden has the uniqueness of armorness, Neowish is just one of many mounted units who perform so much better than him. On top of that, he can't use javelins until promotion, and even if you wanted to use a cavalier, just use Alec. His bases and growths are either equal to or only slightly worse than Neowish, but Alec has pursuit so he can follow up, and he has awareness, preventing him from being crit, having enemies activate skills on him, or being hit with effective damage. The final nail in Neowish's coffin is that Alec and Arden both have lover conversations that either speed up them falling in love with another unit, or boosting their stats just a tad. Neowish has nothing. Sorry bud, better luck in the remake. The second generation's usability can vary greatly based on the parent's skills or level. There's only 4 units that are set in stone, 5 if you count both Uchar and Ucharba, even though you can only get 1. But for one child, there is a single pairing that makes them good, and every other pairing is borderline worthless. And the child that comes from this is Corpray. He starts as a level 1 cleric, so any combat skills you put on him are worthless until level 20, and he promotes. And even if you wanted to use him as a fighter, he takes forever to get there. If Lex fathers him, he will get there faster, but won't be a decent fighter since his only real skill will be Vantage. Claude is his only decent father, since he's one of 2 units who can use the Valkyria staff, meaning you can revive dead units. But if Lex and Claude are unavailable, you're better getting his chubby-cheeked replacement Charlotte, since not only does he have Paragon by default, but he is also the only unit in the game to get the Berserk staff, which sends one enemy unit into a frenzy, attacking and killing any unit nearby, including other enemies. Speaking of substitutes, most of the substitutes are worse than the originals, unless you have a really terrible pairing. But Hermina sucks in a really unique way. Like most of the other replacements, she only has 1 skill, and that skill isn't Pursuit. What she does have is Adept, which sucks because Pegasus Knights get that on promotion regardless. Quite literally, any other skill would have been more worthwhile in her, and yet she just occasionally gets a random follow-up. Tristan isn't the greatest unit, but what you see is what you get. There's no wasted potential. Plus, just about every substitute unit has a special event exclusive to them and not the regular unit. Kraideen can talk to Uchar or Ucharba to get plus 3 HP and plus 2 defense, Lelia can get the Barrier Blade, Charlotte the aforementioned Berserk, Dalvin and Tristan give each other 4 points across 3 stats, meanwhile, Hermina's is just 3 points of defense, which while nice, is far from interesting. Hermina is stuck in a bad batch already, but her lack of uniqueness and redundant skill make her a particularly rotten egg. Now look, I'll be fair, I haven't beaten Thracia, so there may be a particular bad egg out there, but Kayn stands out to me as sucking. Underleveled and having stats to match, maybe he could be saved by unique attributes? Leaf is a garbage tier unit, but he's saved by supporting just about every unit in the army, making them more evasive and accurate, as well as having a personal weapon in the Light brand. Kayn has none of that. He's got no skills, no movement stars, so there's a 0% chance of him randomly refreshing himself. His FCM, or follow-up crit multiplier, is 1, so he can still crit on follow-ups, but he's not getting a boost to it. And worst of all, he's a mounted unit. During indoor chapters, which there are a lot of in this game, mounted units are forced to wield swords, and Kayn here has a flat E rank, trapping him at Iron without heavy investment. But being totally honest, why the heck would you invest in him at all? Fergus joins 5 chapters earlier, so that's 5 chapters of investment with the growth boosting scrolls, and he wields swords on both a mount and foot, so he's always growing towards accessing better weapons. Plus, he's one of the few units who can wield the Bayo sword, giving him Vantage and Wrath, and the Bragi sword, granting Miracle and some plot stuff later. But if Fergus died, then you have Finn joining 2 chapters earlier, with a personal right at the gate of the Brave Lance, a higher base lance and sword rank, and he's in the first 3 chapters, so he has time to build up both of those ranks. And he has Miracle at base, and he's close to promotion right out the gate. But if Finn is somehow dead, the chapter before you gives Carrion, who is 1 level lower, but has better growths and an FCM of 4, nearly guaranteeing a critical hit if he follows up, and he has a minor perf, in that while anyone can use the Paragon Sword, giving the wielder the Paragon skill and plus 5 defense, he's the only way to get it, and a pretty good user of it, since it helps train his E, almost D rank swords. And even if you need to use a Cavalier unit who joins you in Chapter 9, Alva is right there, with almost as good growths, and he starts at D rank swords for indoor chapters. However you slice it, there is no reason to use Kayn. I would like to remind you that this is a tier list of unit quality in combat, not actual characterization or role in the story. Sophia is cute, I built her in Heroes and she's an important part of the story. That being said, she is in the running for the worst unit in the franchise, not even in her own game. For starters, she's the Dark Mage, and Dark Tomes in this game are kind of heavy, made worse by Sophia's space 3 constitution. Her stats across the board are kind of awful, which you would expect from a level 1, but at least she gets access to dark magic, so with a bit of training, she can heal from dealing damage, that is if she hits, and she can reduce foes' HP to 1, really useful for 99 HP walls, or even use the powerful Apocalypse Tome. The problem with that, though, is that 2 chapters before you get Sophia, you get Rai, who's quite literally better across the board. Even most of his growths are either better or only slightly worse outside of resistance. And even assuming you want to use her in some sort of females-only run of the game, 5 or 6 chapters later you get Nime, who literally is better at everything Sophia can do. Enemies are starting to promote, and she just can't measure up. So if you want to use a Dark Mage, save your tome uses for Nime. Blazing Blade is going to be my most controversial pick, because I'm picking one of the protagonists. And here's a hint for you, it's the one IS loves to shove down your throat, Lyn. Now sure, there are units who are less useful, like Will or Lucius. But here's the thing, Will is effective against flyers, which is useful generally. Lucius can heal and can help deal with annoying dark mages. Lyn? She is another infantry sword unit, just like Guy or Raven, but unlike those two, Lyn is not good. She's locked to swords, the worst weapon type in this game, easily. Axes have hand axes for easy 1 to 2 range, and are very strong. And Hector has them for the entire game, while Elowood is locked to swords, at least until he promotes, where he gets lances, so he has access to javelins. Lyn, meanwhile, gets bows, a pretty crappy weapon type. And even if you wanted to use the super powerful Rhineflesh or the Brave Bow for potentially 4 times attacks, Good luck training up from rank D in either 6 or 4 chapters, depending on when you promoted her with the Heaven Seal. Worse still is that she's frail as a leaf. She's evasive, sure, but evasiveness can only help so much. And from my experience, enemies in Blazing Blade are pretty accurate, albeit weak. So for a normal unit, they're only dealing 3 or 4 damage at 75% accuracy. Meanwhile, Lyn, with her 2 base defense and 20% growths, she's taking 11 at 40% accuracy. And if your luck is like mine, then not even Lyn's plus 3 bonus on promotion helps. I leveled her to 20, and then promoted her, and then leveled her again, and she ended the game with 6 defense. 6. She leveled defense once. She doesn't even have the defenses that other bad lords like Leaf and Roy have. She doesn't offer useful supports to half her army. She doesn't have an amazing late game promotion that comes with an awesome sword. She is just bad. Iwan sucks so much. The trainees suck a whole lot at base in general, but Ross joins early enough that he can be safely trained, even on hard mode, and Emelian joins during a period where you get multiple stat boosters and can quickly get access to javelins, heavy spears, and killing spears, so you can train her up. Iwan, meanwhile, has access to magic, which isn't great, but he has no specialty, so training him would be super annoying. The only reason one would train him is because if you level him through Pupil and Dark Mage and then into Summoner, you can summon 1 HP zombies to fight for you. But the problem is, 2 or 3 chapters after you get Iwan, you get Noel, another Dark Mage, and a Master Seal to promote him, so you can start summoning for free. And if all you care about is summoning, why does it matter if Iwan has 9 levels as a Pupil and then 9 levels as a Dark Mage minimum before summoning? Especially when you remember that whenever you promote him into a Dark Mage, he loses all his anima weapon ranks and now has to start over with Dark Magic. Plus, Iwan is, in my opinion, harder to train than the other units. Iwan stinks, and in a game where just about every unit is at least decent, that just stands out even more. Path of Radiance is really good at spreading the love out to units. Growths are really generous, there's rings to buff growths, and if you feel like a unit is falling behind, then you can just give them bonus XP to force a level up. So that means that whoever is the hardest to level is the worst, and that goes to Soth. To give him some credit, if you decided to not hire Volk, for whatever reason, Soth is your only access to chess, so you don't have to juggle keys or whatever. And he doesn't charge you, which honestly doesn't matter that much, but I'm sure that's attractive to someone. In every other way, Soth sucks. Knives are absolutely terrible, the best knife in the game only beating iron and slim swords, lances, and 0 axes. They also have poor stats, owing to them being more for the stealing and not for the fighting, but even in that regard, Volk is better. Even if you wanted to use knives, there are units you get later in the game, namely Khalil and Bastion, who have the knife skill and do better with them than him. On top of that, Soth has a skill stuck on him that means that he gains 1/3 the normal amount of XP, but giving each skill that doesn't increase a second chance to increase. Which isn't great, and it takes up most of his capacity, so please just remove it if you need to use him. However, the biggest problem with using Soth over Volk is that while Volk can promote, Soth cannot. Volk promotes into an assassin after beating Chapter 19, getting access to stat buffs, more chances to grow, and the lethality skill, which can one-shot problematic targets. Soth doesn't. Give the other bad units in the game something. They can promote, and even if they can't, like Alencia, she has amazing utility in being a flying healer with a free, infinite-use Brave Sword. Straight up, half your army sucks in this game. Now, using bad units is fine. You can use bad units. I use bad units. But if we're talking specifically, here is every unit who sucks from latest to earliest join time. Zephyrin is too much hassle to get for a unit you can only use in the final chapter, with only niche abilities. Ina's strength is terrible for the time she joins, and her speed and defense will probably just result in her dying. Peleus has bad stats across the board, and only has mild utility once promoted because he can heal. He's also only available for 2 chapters max to train him, and dark magic isn't as cool as you'd think it'd be. Sanaki's poor strength and speed mean that if she's being attacked, she's guaranteed to be doubled and murdered. Lyre's pathetic stats means that when she joins, she's probably going to be dealing 4 damage to units that will deal 20 plus damage damage to her in return. Makalov has pathetic damage output, even if you train him in the one chapter you have him before 2E. Neolucci is incredibly frail, even when transformed, and his growth suck so much it's not worth putting in the effort to train him. Fiona only has 2 chapters you can even use her before the end game of her part, and considering her low starting level, that's not enough time to catch her up to speed with everyone else. Meg's base stats do not make up for her okay growths, and being a slow unit holds her back. Ilyana's speed is so pathetic, without training she'll struggle to double anything. Leonardo is more likely to cap resistance than strength, so don't expect much damage out of him without serious babying. Edward has bad stats all across the board and is only redeemed by swords being pretty decent in this game. Micaiah is so utterly frail and slow that I could reasonably kick her butt. And sure, her magic, res, and luck are above average, but considering she's not even in the running for best light mage, and she's a permanent game over condition, Micaiah is easily in the worst lords in the series. Probably the worst one, to be honest. And then we have the list of characters I call Jagant. Characters who, at the start, are super strong and can be used to weaken enemies or just entirely solo sections of the map. But because they get bad XP when they join, you can't train them. When they rejoin later though, their stats don't measure up to the units who've had way more time to grow, and thus don't measure up to the units they're now fighting. That list consisting of Lucia, Tormod, Vika, Zihar, Taraneo, Volog, and Soth. Again, sorry bud, you just can't catch a break. If I had to pick one character to be the worst of the worst, Micaiah. Because having the Lord be weaker than wet paper is not a good idea. Shadow Dragon is kind of crazy because some units got massively buffed from the changes, such as Wolf and Sedgar getting some of the best growths the series has ever seen. Barst now having a promotion combined with the amazingness that aren't axes means that his niche utility from FE1 and 3 is now a unit that can be a powerhouse throughout the entire adventure. However, one unit who suffers tremendously from the changes is Navarre. Sword units already got a bad go of things, because FE11 is full of lance units, which was fine in 1 and 3 because the triangle didn't exist. But when introduced into the journey, it causes them to falter greatly. Then combine that fact with his strength base being not that great, only better than the fellow Myrmidon Rad, and that his growths are pretty bad, almost as bad as Sita, a unit famous for her garbage strength. Now some may say that Navarre isn't worse than Marth, at least Navarre can be promoted, but to that I say, Rapier. Navarre has trouble fighting in this game because of all the Cavaliers and Knights, and hey, the Rapier allows Marth to triple his damage. On top of that, Marth is a great idea to give stat boosters to, since he's force deployed anyways, might as well invest in him. Meanwhile, Navarre has at least 3 other units who can do his job, and there isn't a single sword unique to infantry, so Cavalier units can also do just as good a job as him in slashing people down. The changes to this game just leave Navarre in the dust, and he can't stand as strong as he did back in the day. Hey bud, remember when I said you were better than Samuel? Well, not anymore! Not only do the star shards now just buff stats a little instead of growths, Ubello, the idiot, now suffers a permanent -2 to his magic stat. When the tiny, frail, magical child does a better job as a burly fighter, you know he sucks. Especially when you consider that mages are even better now. His sister has much better growths, Lind is improved as well, both having access to Nosferatu, and the monster that is Chris can be a mage, entirely making Ubello a worthless unit. He's just bad in every way. Technically speaking, there are no bad units in the 3DS Fire Emblem games. There are just units who are easier to train, and units who suck to train. Or if you're going for the super hard modes or DLCs, units who can be used in Apotheosis, and units who can't. And for Awakening, I'll give the title of the most annoying unit to Rickon. Rickon is a mage, which is only kind of okay in Awakening, but he's not stand out as one. He's not perfect like Robin is, he's not as gifted in magic compared to Muriel and Maribel, he's not as tanky as Tharja, and he's not as crit happy as Henry. And his 2 promotions are only okay. Life Taker and Tome Fair are good skills to take into other classes, but that doesn't exactly translate amazingly to his other classes. Speaking of his reclassing options, they are pretty garbage. Some people sing the praises of Archer, even saying that Crom can't survive Apotheosis without being in Sniper, but sorry, not from my experience. Rally skill is nice, and so is Bowbreaker. Other than that, worthless. Cavalier is better because it has access to Luna, Dual Guard Plus, Aegis, and Defender, but the biggest issue with Riken is that he is a mage. He can be a physical class, but he's only really good with magic, but the issue is he can't become a dark mage. Muriel can become a dark mage, as well as Tharja and Henry starting as dark mages, so he can't access the Crit Machine Ruin, the Brave Tome Waste, or most importantly, Nosferatu to steal HP. Maribel is safe because she has access to dual support, and more importantly, Gale Force. And the best physical units will be infinitely better than him, thanks to better physical classes like Berserker or Wyvern Lord, or having other niches like Arms Thrift or Lethality. So Riken can't excel in any type of damage. Sad fate, really. The worst unit in Fates depends entirely on route, so I'll give a brief description of each route's worst unit. Izana easily takes the worst cake, because he joins super late as a mage, a class you've had 7 or 8 characters who can do just that, on top of having a personal skill that's going to be more of a detriment than a boon. It may reduce the damage of 1 range foes, but it's guaranteed to reduce your allies' damage, and 2 to 3 range foes won't be affected at all. No wonder this guy doesn't fight. He sucks at it. Conquest has a lot of good units and a lot of bad units. Odin is one of those bad units. There's not quite as many mages as there are in Birthright, but shortly after you get him, you get Camilla, who has better stats, is a flying mage, and has about as good magic as him. Worst of all, 1 chapter after you get Odin, you get Nyx, who is not only a dark mage, but is a better damage dealer, and can class into the witch class, something Odin can never do. Without mods, at least. Nyx, I literally just praised you, and you throw your Chapter 9 base stats at me in Chapter 15. Are you kidding me? Come on, girl, you're making me look stupid for defending you. Echoes is very similar to the original, in which most characters are on an equal level of suckage. I can't even give it to Dean again, because Sonya was hit with the nerf bat, so she doesn't get every spell in the game, and Dean's growths are improved across the board, so it's no longer stupid to pick him over Sonya. So I'll go with yet another mercenary that joins Celica in Act 2 while on the side quest to kick Gareth's butt. Jessie. Jessie is the third of potentially 5 mercenaries Celica gets, and objectively is the worst. Saber. Tanky as can be and just generally useful. Kamui. Speedy boy who's pretty good at landing crits. Dean. Amazing unit who can do just about anything. And if you make Atlas a mercenary, why would you? But if you do, he's going to shatter entire castles with a flick of his wrist. Jessie can't do any of that. Other than being a tank for mages in Act 4, Jessie is just another merc when you don't need any more. Just about every single unit in this game is good. Hard to train, yes, but that's why Raphael makes me so mad. He's strong and has great HP growths and a pretty respectable defense growth. And that's about it. His speed, pathetic. The dude has a better speed growth and base. You're getting lapped by the man who's a personification of an iron bar. Dexterity, not great either. He's not going to be missing consistently with the iron weapons, but the faster and more evasive units get, the more and more that hit number falls, and that crit number ain't going nowhere anywhere quickly. Charm, not great either. And though he doesn't have a flaw in this stat, it's going to make using good battalions on him all the more irritating. He's not the best brawler, he's not the best axe wielder, he's not even the best armored unit, and you may say that's unfair. How does he fare in his own house? Amazingly, worse. Because anything he can do, Hilda can do better. She may have 1 less HP, strength, and defense at base, but considering her growths, she'll soon surpass him and start ravaging foes with a smile on her face. She can punch and kick with the best of them, even if she doesn't have the class for it. Her axe rank is a full point higher than his, allowing her to use hand axes, hammers, and steel axes before him. Add on to that her lance proficiency, allowing her to get into Pegasus Knight easily, and her hidden talent and armor allows her way more classes than he ever could. Recruiting her is way easier too, since you'll probably be training axes and charm to get other people. Meanwhile, armor is so out of the way, and the biggest nail in this coffin is that she has the Freikugel, he has a short axe. Raphael isn't even all that bad if you consider him independently, but the unfortunate truth is that he's a Drog that joins at the same time Echidna does, and she levels just as fast as he does. Now engage. I'll be honest, I love this game, but it has some stinker units, even if they can be fixed with the right amount of effort. Anna's strength is atrocious, but thanks to her personal 50% magic growth, swapping her into a mage class makes her a beast. Panette may not seem that impressive, but building up her crit turns her into a super god slayer. And Tamara may have some of the worst strength ever, but Sandstorm turns her into both an awesome tank and a fantastic slayer. But there is one character who is outclassed almost immediately, and of course, it's this game's Jagan, Vander. Like, he's not even that much better than the original Jagan, but his worse speed means that almost immediately he's gonna get doubled in no time flat. Worse still, 2 chapters in, he is power crept. If you want a powerful unit to hit with an axe and get doubled, then you have Boucheron. If you want a cavalier unit for mounted bonuses, then at the same time, you get Alfred, even if he's not an amazing unit either. Even his personal skill isn't all that great, because while yes, crit plus 5 is nice, it's crit plus 5. Still, Vander doesn't shine brightly when you first get him, and whatever light he had was snuffed out really quickly. Okay, we're tier listing them anyways. Best to worst, don't take this too seriously. At 21st, we've got Dean, because he's not even a bad unit. He's just literally the wrongest choice you could make. 20th is Rickon. Guy's not objectively awful. He's just the least good unit you can use, which is still saying something. 19 goes to Raphael, an entirely decent unit, who's overshadowed by the lady standing 2 feet to his left. I'll give 18th to Azana, because his personal skill sucks, but he's not bad otherwise. He's just a permanent detriment to your army, and occasionally a nuisance to the enemy. 17th belongs to Lyn. You're forced to deploy her anyway, may as well put in the work to get a decent Lyn. And her speed makes her, usable. Samto is in 16th, because I really have no opinions on him. He's a sword unit, which means he's good, and Star Shards help out. He's just kind of mid as all get out. 15th is a Juan. Awful unit, but if you want to drag him all the way to Summoner, that does give him a good niche, I guess. Jesse is Mr. 14th because he's bad and doesn't have a niche at all, but I guess he's serviceable if all the others are dead, I guess. Naoish is 13th. How are you gonna be a bad cavalier in the game that loves cavaliers? Shaking my dang head. Rocking in at number 12 is Kane. Any unit in Thracia is fixable thanks to the scrolls and skill manuals, but why would you put any amount of time onto him when Ozian exists is beyond me. Just missing the top 10 is Micaiah at 11th, because she's the below average mage in a game that hates mages, and in a game with like 7 protagonists, she's clearly the worst morally and character-wise. But at least you can heal with staves. Our first unit in the top 10 is Navarre. Bad in Myrmidon, bad in reclasses, and bad in general. Hermina goes in 9th. Her flying utility doesn't do much for her in this game, and she's not fun to use, and she doesn't even get a fun substitute-only bonus like Lelia or Kraydeen. Vander is 8th. He sucks basically the second you get him, and then is replaced by units who aren't great, but they aren't him, so that's an upgrade. Soth is in 7th place. Thief utility can only get you so far when your job can be replaced by a guy who's at least slightly competent in fighting, or if need be, a hunk of metal. 6th place goes to Odin Dark, because using him long term makes me go and insert pun on about his name here, use him to get his daughter, and then throw him in the trash. Aw, cute, she's right next to her conquest hubby. But no lover's crit will get me to bump up Nick's score from 5th place. She genuinely sucks so much, I'm convinced there was a scheme to ruin her at IS. When 11 out of the 13 versions of you are utter dog crap, you know you're a bad unit. At least for 2 of Corporate's versions, he can use the Valkyria staff right away, or Forseti once he promotes, but that does not do much to keep him out of 4th place. When I say I trained 3rd place all the way to level 20, and then only used her as a snuff bot, that is how you know that Sophia is worthless. Wendy at least can be a decent tank once you train her. Sophia struggles to fight other mages. Ubella is worse than Sophia because she gets funny tomes that deal 99 damage to walls, and he gets Shaver, I guess. Why? Why would you do that to yourself? Why use him? There's so many other mages you can use instead. But he is in 2nd place, means he is beaten only by Daros. Bad weapons, bad stats, bad weapon availability, bad lack of promotion, bad long-term use, bad not being power crept considering he joins with 3 people better than him, bad everything. Nothing is redeemable about Daros because again, you have 3 people guaranteed who are going to be better than him, and he's not even that funny. And his stats are just trash. Thank you for watching this dumb video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and maybe a comment about what you thought about my list. Is Kane secretly a god if you use a specific cheat, or do you think that Ina deserves this spot instead? I'm genuinely curious to see what people have to say about my list, and I'll see you nerds in the next video. which may be me talking about the best characters if the comment demands it.